Hey, everybody. Looks good. Looks good. How is everybody? Trying to you guys hearing me well when I'm talking this distance from the microphone? Is the sound level okay? Just want to make sure that okay, cool. Thanks, Larry. It's pointed at my voice, but it's a little far, so cool. Thanks, guys. Just wanted to know because actually what happened, I wasn't on this side today. I was on the other side with the SDR, but there's somebody that actually stole my chair. And the thief is Paul the cat. So at the last minute, I had to change side because it's like, oh, look at that. Paul the cat has sold my chair. And of course, instead of, taking him off, it was like, yeah, it's okay. You can have the chair. You can have the chair. What would do for a cat? What do we do for a cat? Okay. Gift from God, don de Dieu. So open this. It's like a champagne bottle. Let's just put it like this. And let's open it. See if my hand that I hit the guy was now strong enough. Yeah. Here we go. Cork. Oh, it's interesting. It smells like apple juice. I never smelled the cork before. Some people do after champagne. So cheers, everybody. We're gonna pour. Well, I won't go into the details, Camanxy, but I've seen a few humans almost as hairy as a cat. Oh God. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is the live shortwave show. We are Wednesday, September 9th. Although in UT, if we give it a UT date, and by the way, I get so many comments every time I post something. I post something on the Facebook group and I say, hey, it's, did I just kick the camera? I think I did a little. Hey, I got this at 01 UT on this date, and everybody's like, well, it's not September 10th, it's September 9th. And I'm like, yeah, but UT date exists. So we all often talk about universal time, but the date goes with the universal time. When it's crossing 0 UTC, we are technically in UTC date September the 10th. Actually, my clock on the other side is saying that. So technically, we're kind of September the 10th in universal time, but here in North America, it's September 9th still, as we are evening or early evening for those on the West Coast. So welcome aboard. I was watching the amazing pictures of what California looks like with the apocalypse-like yellowish, orangish sky and feel. And I know what you guys are going through because it happens once here. A long time ago, like 10, 15 years ago, we had a huge forest fire up north, and it was really big. It was so big, actually, that it tripped the Hydro-Quebec power lines from time to time. And winds one day were blowing from the north. So all of that smoke came down to Montreal. Not only did it smell like burning and smoke all over, but it had the same yellow, weird look that I saw today on the pictures in California. So anyways, anybody in California, I hope you guys are all right, because pretty crazy what's happening there. And it brought me back to that day. I remember it was like a Sunday or a Saturday or a Sunday, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was the first time ever in my life that I had like lived through something that. And I think it was one of the years where forest fires in the province here were really, really like at a very high level. So anyways, nice to have everybody here. We are back, and we are back for every week now. So that means that starting this week, regular schedule every Wednesday, every Friday, the show is going to go on. And hope that you guys enjoy what we have here, enjoy what we will be doing. And tonight I thought we would talk a little bit about some of the tips and tricks on identifying what you're listening to, because it's easy for a guy like me most of the time to know what I'm listening to. But when you look at the posts, I was what like for the past month and a half, was looking at posts in the Facebook group. That's where you realize it's hard for some to actually know, what am I listening to? And you look at the schedules online and you're like, yeah, well, it probably is that. Well, maybe not. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 different things. So, well, I'm going to try to give some tips on how do you identify. And there's a few of them in there that honestly have to do with, experience and understanding stuff. But I think it's nice, and we need to talk about it from time to time. I mean, it's easy for some of us to know, but it's more difficult for others. And we got to understand and help everybody try to, kind of post and know what we're listening to. Anyways, my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. This is a show that happens twice a week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 hours Universal Time, Thursday. And so a lot of people watching on this show at this time on Wednesday are actually on Thursday night, or beginning of the day or midday. We are also live on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. That's 20 hours Universal Time. It's a show about radio, you know, that ancient art of tuning a little device that has an antenna on it. I'm not talking about a router. I'm talking about a radio and listening to the radio, and shortwave radio in particular, and long wave and medium wave. And sometimes we go into other aspects of it. But you know what? It's a great place where we learn a lot. And here, nobody is, you know, an a-hole. Everybody respects each other. Everybody has its views. Everybody respects everybody else. We are amongst a lot of people that are newbies in the hobby. And if you are like me, somebody that's been doing this hobby for a long time, well, we're here to help the newcomers understand where we are, what it is we do, and how it works, and doing it in a way that we are polite and friendly. You know, we talk about so many of those grumpy hams that think that shortwave listeners are just, you know, inferior, whatever. You know, it's like, you know, if you say to someone, and honestly, how many of you would go into a ham fest and say, "Hey, I am a CBer"? You probably won't even mention it because you're going to say, well, they're all going to laugh and all going to say that I'm a, you know, inferior hobbyist because, oh, CB radio. Yeah, you know, well, I can tell you one thing. There's a group of CBers here in Montreal that have a contact on, they talk every night on channel 16 lower sideband. I've been following them for a while, and I can tell you they have more knowledge about the hobby, about antennas, about radio than, I would say, more than half of all the ham radio operators I hear all the time. That, you know what, they have a magical box. They press that little button on the mic and they can say, hey, CQ, I'm whatever. And you know what, honestly, I'm starting to kind of wonder if a lot of them really understand what they're doing and what radio is all about and why it works. And that's where we have to stop pretending, oh, I've been in the hobby for 40 years, I know more than you. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of things that everybody, including people that have been in a hobby for years, can still learn. And I think the last thing we need in a hobby is a smartass that comes over and says, I know it all and you're wrong. We had a few of them. There's one in particular that we don't hear about anymore from Finland that posted a couple of videos about me. I mean, you know what? That's not what we need. Anybody that gets into a hobby needs to learn, and learning needs to be done in a way that, you know, respectful way. And if something is wrong, there's a way to say it. You know, we're not all right. I'm not all the time right. And regularly in the chat room, I say something and somebody's going to say, well, you're wrong. And it's like, you know what? The way it's done is polite and nice. It's like, you know what? I might say something. I might be putting my foot in my mouth, although I could do it when I was eight years old, but maybe not today. I mean, there are moments we'll say something, and everybody, I mean, nobody is immune to saying something that they think is right, or they think they know it, or remember it well. And somebody will say, well, not quite. Let's, it's not exactly like that it works, or it's not like that at all, or no, you're wrong because it's not like that, it's this way. And there's a way to say it that doesn't hurt people. You know, you can say it in, oh, you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. Or you can say it, oh, well, no, you're wrong because, you know why? This, blah, 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 blah. And you explain it and you're like, oh, okay, I thought that was like that. But you're proving me that, oh, my knowledge was flawed. on that aspect of the hobby, and it's perfect. When it's done politely and correctly, people don't feel offended because they get corrected. They actually are happy because somebody took the time to explain, in a good way. You know what? Well, it's not exactly like that, and here's why. Unfortunately, there's too many of them that are like, yeah, you're an idiot, or oh, you do CB, like, go over there. I don't want to talk to you. I'm a ham radio operator. I got that license. Yeah, I can tell you that a lot of them that have that license, I don't know how they did, but man, you barely are knowledgeable enough to hold a radio. Hey, cheers, everybody. But that said, everybody's level is at a different place. And that's fine. And we're here to be amongst friends that love radio. I like the Facebook group a lot. For those that don't know, official SWL channel is this name of this channel, with the same name for the Facebook group, official SWL channel. And I look at the Facebook group, people posting, helping each other. There's so many times that I look at the answers that you guys are posting to questions. And sometimes I want to give my little 2 cents worth of what I think. But so many times I see the answers of everybody, and I'm like, yeah, that guy's fine. He's got some good advice from tons of people that all want to help out, And if there's a need for a little something more, I'll add my own opinion. But for the most part, so many times I just leave it alone. It's like, yeah, it's nice. Oh, what radio should I buy? You guys have all of that covered, I don't want to have a radio that mutes when I tune, or I don't want to have this or that, or what do you think, And we all have our radios, and we all have, our opinion of different things. There's some great stuff out there for a price that, I think it's never been cheaper to listen to shortwave. I wish that when I was younger, when I started off, that the price versus the money I had was like today. I mean, if there would be such a thing as a Texan PL 660 in 1982 when I started for the same price equivalence, so that means that it would have cost like $50, $40 back then. I would have had a better set actually than my realistic DX100, which is a crappy radio by today's standard. I would have had a digital display, which was not the case back then. It would have been nice, How many people got into the hobby, and the case is always the same, How many people got into the hobby in the 80s, not understanding what they have and what they're listening to. There's an interesting part that I was thinking of. It was last week. Last week I had an evening listening, and I was intense. I was in my little radio bubble. I was reading the September Spectrum Monitor. And there's a few things that, what is making us stay into the hobby is very diverse depending on everybody and what we want. I mean, it's obvious when you look at the DX reports, some are stuck on listening to medium wave, or some love long wave. Some love utilities. Some love international broadcasts. Some just want to hear those exotic, weird signals from the other side of the world. We're all different. Some are program listeners. And I'm a mix of all of that together. But there's one thing you got to understand is that depending on what you love in a hobby, to keep listening, to still be there, means you need to have an interest in something. You know, one of the things I remember, one thing that I just got in my mind. I never. It's the first time I think I've thought about it since. I remember in 1984-ish meeting one guy that listened to Shortwave, and he abandoned, and he was telling me, well, there's nothing I can understand that I listen to. One of the biggest problems in the hobby, of course, Shortwave is a language barrier. There's a lot of different things and different languages we don't understand. I mean, if we all spoke at least 10 different languages, I mean, there would always be something to listen to on Shortwave. But then you got to break it down to what do we understand? And I clearly understood one thing in the 80s. Being bilingual, English and French, was giving me a richer experience in shortwave listening. I was much more into it than maybe somebody that listens to one language only or understands only one language. And it's still happening today, by the way. Because sometimes I forget that one afternoon when I'm listening to shortwave, when a lot of people are saying, well, there's nothing on shortwave, and I listen to 2 or 3 different stations or 4 different stations and in 1 hour, it's easy because I'm at that level where the language isn't, for me, French and English are now kind of mixed in experience. When you start learning a language, there's something that makes you realize that you have to get into that language mode to understand and do it. I'm at a level that even though my English isn't perfect, I'm at a level that my brain does not make a difference in 2 languages. My brain is now not shifting between French and English. My brain lives in Fringlish. French and English is now one thing. It doesn't have to translate. It doesn't have to. It's like my brain is now bilingual by default. So it's easy for me to listen to shortwave and not realize that while somebody's going to tell me, well, there was only one station I could listen to at 18 hours UTC, it's easy for me to not realize that, well, I had tons of stations. Oh yeah, I had tons of them, but I had 2 in English and 3 in French. I had 5 stations I listened to, but 3 of them were in French. My brain didn't make a difference. It's like it's there and I understand what's the content. In the 80s, when I met that guy spoke only French. And even though French was kind of common on shortwave bands, I realized that if French was my single only language I understood, I am blocking out a big chunk of everything on shortwave. And back then I didn't realize that. I remember telling him, well, there's a lot of stuff to listen to. But it took a few years for me to understand, actually, there wasn't that much to listen to if you were a French language radio listener. I had the chance and the opportunity to listen to both French language and English language broadcasts. And I mean, it was just 2 languages, but it opened up a whole world. And I'm thinking sometimes if I had learned to really, be fluent in Spanish, for example, Wow, I would have had so much. I would have stayed in the tropical bands listening to South America all the time. I would have gone crazy. you know, an example of that is 4VEH in Haiti. They were in French, and I had the privilege of understanding and listening to hours of programming. Sometimes they had game shows on that station, which was kind of interesting. I still remember those. And I remember my dad had a craze. My dad had several crazes over his life, and I often was the one scooping up the rest of the craze. So he would go crazy on something at some point. The radio aspect that I'm here is because he would go crazy at one point on radios. Oh, look at that, multi-band radios and shortwave radios, and that's why I'm here. He would go crazy on that. It would last for 6 months, and then he'd not touch anything anymore. And I would be the guy that would like, oh, okay, let's turn this on and see what's. I still remember one aspect of that craze when Haiti was on the air. I remember a couple of times listening to a game show they had in the evening, local time. And the fond memory I have of that is it was in the time when my dad had a craze on aquariums. So we had like 8 aquariums with fish everywhere, which I always thought was very beautiful. I mean, aquariums, beautiful aquariums are very nice with fish. It's super cool to watch. And I remember I would listen to Shortwave and look at the fish tank and look at the fish, the aquariums, and thought it was beautiful and everything. But it's one of those memories of the past. And then you have to understand another aspect. I've always been very curious of the world around me, and I'm sorry I'm talking a lot tonight, but um, I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit. I hope I'm not boring. Um, One of the aspects of our hobby is also the interest we have in the world around. I've always been so. I think everybody can probably um, understand what I want to say here. Is that there's kind of two kinds of people around us. Those that are in the local environment, meaning their lives are guided mostly by what's happening in the community and the city where they live. If we put it a little larger, maybe in the country where we live, but it's a local life. A lot of people have a life that stays around tangible things they can see, they can interact with. I was brought up in a family where my mom um, was watching and listening to what's happening around the world. So I grew up in, yeah, Mrs. Roberts' cat has disappeared, and for 3 days, yeah, okay, that's nice, okay, but there's a thing called Chernobyl, where like there's a nuclear plant, or there's something happening in the USSR, or Libya. What the US just dropped like missiles in Libya or whatever. My personal understanding of life was a little bit of local stuff, but I always thought, and it's still the same today for me, the international level of what's happening around the world always took a big part of what I look, listen, and want to understand. While some of my friends were talking about, very local issues, I was talking about, yeah, but did you see that the USSR invaded Afghanistan? and it could have a really big impact on. And you understand when you do things like that, that okay, there's two kinds of people. The ones that are, I still remember talking about one thing about the U.S. and if somebody told me once, "Why are you talking about the U.S.? I don't give an F about the U.S." And I said, "Well, you should give an F about the U.S. because what happens there has a direct impact on what's happening here. My sight of what's happening in the world is not this big; it's this big. Other countries have an impact on what's happening here." And so that's what I was saying is, there are two types of people. And I think shortwave, because what attracts us to shortwave, there's different things. Depending on who we are, shortwave is, very different. And we don't all, and it's nice that we don't all like the same thing about the hobby. It makes it so rich and diverse in experience. What I think part of the reason why my shortwave hobby was important, and it is still today, I've always found that the international scene of what's happening around the world was for me as important as what's happening in my own city or my own country. And shortwave was nice because it gave me news from what's happening around the world. We talked about it a few times. I tend to think that anybody that is serious shortwave listener, we have a different view of world events, even local events, because we have heard from stations, from countries, different point of views that maybe changed our way of thinking about a world event. I always say that sometimes I would hear a foreign country talk about a Canadian viewpoint from their viewpoint, and I was like, huh, okay. So that's what they think about Canada on that issue, which is slightly different from what I think here or people here have as a way of thinking. I think we can see it easily just with U.S. Canada. I think Canadians citizens have there are several things that we have a viewpoint that is different about the same U.S. events than the U.S. citizens have. It's part of the way it is. It's nothing political here in thinking that we have our own differences, which is okay because it means that's why Canada is Canada and U.S. is U.S. and the rest of the world is the rest of the world. Why Europe is Europe. Different viewpoints is nice and okay. It's actually healthy to have that. But I think if your viewpoints or if your interest in the world is there, shortwave kind of also satisfies part of your experience, we talked about it a few times, thinking about the Cold War. I mean, the 80s were one of the high points of the Cold War. There were, highs and lows in the Cold War. It was highs and there were some lows. Well, the 80s wasn't a high. The 80s was kind of heavy in the Cold War things, but yet, I don't know why, but listening to Radio Moscow was kind of almost comforting. It's crazy to say this, and I'm not a communist, or I didn't have that ideology of communism or anything. But for some reason, the way that Radio Moscow would do their programming and Radio Berlin there was, I don't know, it's because maybe there was some human side to it. It was, there are humans on that side, the other side of the curtain wall, that are just trying to talk to you about something that has to do with their own ideology, but in a way that, it was propaganda. But let's be fair, we sent tons of propaganda on our side too. Um, but there was something comforting about it. I don't know. It was like, Radio Moscow reading my letter, and my answering my question as a Canadian that sent a letter in to Radio Moscow, thinking it would never reach because everybody's telling you, well, that's a communist country, and you know what, nothing gets there. Well, my letter got to Radio Moscow, got answered. There's something about that that's like, well, maybe it isn't. It isn't cool. It's the Cold War, and it's not my way of thinking. But honestly, it was also part of, maybe it isn't as bad as everybody's telling me all the time. Not that it's good, but honestly, and it's the power of radio, power of communication, power of all that's happening. So, hey, I'm going to start looking at the chat room because I've been talking for 35 minutes, and I don't want to bore you guys with my own little talk. Hey, everybody. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana. Nice to have you here. He was about to do a riot on Facebook, almost. Canadian Radio TV guy, nice to have you here. Don't worry. Don't give any meanings to those pictures that I post when I post the live show links. It's Steve Miller, nice to have you here. Says the new rock star has landed. It's so funny because I made a little joke with what you just said, because when I saw your rock star has landed, I was looking, yeah, well, the Steve Miller Band. Are you Steve Miller from the Steve Miller Band? So I was like, man, nice to have you here, Steve. Shitty Pyro 90, nice to have you here. No, I didn't win. I didn't go blonde. It's just that the lighting was from the back, so it kind of showed it blonde. But in the summertime, I kind of get a little blondish. LN321, nice to have you here from Norway. Tom DXer, WPE2QED, nice to have you on board from Hudson Valley, New York. 45 unit, Moose and Squirrel decoding secret messages from Mother Russia's number station on shortwave. Cool. That reminds me of that moment when I was at Parc Belle-Rive with one of my DXpeditions this summer, and I was decoding on the sea crane the Morse code from Moscow, Russia, and somebody said, well, it's like somebody decoding Russian, like, maybe a Russian spy decoding on a sea crane radio in a park. It's like, yeah, it looks like that, eh? Palacetina 1969, nice to have you here from Texas. Hi, Brawler, nice to have you here from Arkansas. Arthur's Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you on board. Yeah, cooler weather here too. Feels good. Feels, it's almost like I shut down I closed the windows tonight. It's kind of cold. Larry Stevens, nice to have you here from Newark, Ohio. Marcos Antonio, nice to have you here from Nicaragua. William Helms from Florida, nice to have you on board. Noodle Ham Operator, nice to have you here from Gordon. H-A, what's H-A? H-A. I got a blank here. Al, nice to have you here from Seacliff, New York. Dan V, nice to have you here. Bonjour from Ohio, N8WJZ. Oh, Georgia. Okay, there you got it. I was like, HA, what's HA? I don't remember that I was going through my list of of U.S. States and was like, HA, what's HA? Georgia, nice to have you here. Marcos, Eton Elite, Executive Elite, do you recommend it? Buy it? If you can cope with the muting, it's a nice radio. Works great. Works great. Shitty Pyro 90 was able to get the ISS, the International Space Station FM repeater on 437-800. Woohoo! This is so cool. I need to try it out. The passes of the ISS are middle of the night right now here, but I really want to check it out. James Johnson, nice to have you here. Crypto time. What handheld ham can I get that is easy to use? I bought an ICOM for a lot of money. Could not use it. Sold it. What's sad about these, maybe an older set. What's sad about the radios today is that they are complex radios. And it's not for everybody. What would you guys recommend to Crypto Time for an easy handheld for ham radio operations? What else do we have? Moria 330, nice to have you on board. Pagemaster, nice to have you here from Moore, Oklahoma. KC5VOY, WA5136SWL. Brian Penny, nice to have you on board. Yes, Mr. Paul stole my sweater again. Absolutely. And I received another package. The cat food came in 2 packages, Brian. And I got the second package today. K6YYL, nice to have you here from very smoke-filled California. Yeah, I mean, I was watching the pictures. It's totally crazy. Totally crazy. I was watching that and I was like, man, hope you're okay. Rufus Newt from Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Nice to have you here. Jeff King from Jacksonville, Florida. Joe Pecky from Newmarket, Virginia. Nice to have you here. Kemangsy, 1976. You might want to tell the chair thief he should go to the doctor. He's way too hairy for a human. Yep. What else do we have? Rufus Newt cracked a can of blue. So cheers, everybody. Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas, 84 Fahrenheit. David KJ4CMY, nice to have you here from Central Georgia. Got his HF antenna up today, finally. Cool. Joe Rodman from the Chicago area, nice to have you here. Johan Heff, nice to have you here. When your show is simulcast by a parent shortwave, do you QSL? I will, and I will actually try to do a special show in the coming week or so, probably next week, calling all pirates out there. If you want to rebroadcast my show, I will QSL with a special QSL card. Anybody, an eQSL card, anybody that listens to me during that special broadcast. So we're going to check it out. Hecadarius, nice to have you here. WF7I Ombrew, nice to have you on board. Mark Allen, nice to have you on board trying out his Seacrane Skywave SSB. Hope you're having fun with it. Prasad, nice to have you here from India. Always nice to have you on board and see your posts in the Facebook group too. Nick, nice to have you here from Northwest Indiana. Says, good to be here for the show. Good DX to you. Cool. Thomas Olson, nice to have you here, Tom, from Baltimore, Maryland. Johan says, La fin du monde or Trois Pistoles. No, this one is, well, I like fin du monde better than Trois Pistoles, first of all. And this one is from the same company, but it's Don de Dieu, which is Gift from God. Zach, nice to have you here. Zach Ariantel, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? First, Michael Last Whalen, nice to have you here. else do we have? Try to go down a little faster because I talked for so long. Nick says there are some hams that are elitist flunks, but generally I find most to be friendly. It seems to be in clique-like groups more so. I personally like everybody that wants to enjoy the magic of radio. Yep. And I think we all need to be in a way or a mood of talking, of helping out. I mean, more than ever, we need new people in the hobby. More than ever, we need to have people that help each other. And we don't have place for people that are, I know everything and you know nothing, and that's it. It's the kind of thinking that I don't like, anyways. Page Master, if I am wrong, show me definitive proof that I am. Just do not scream at me that I am wrong. If I am wrong, I will admit that. Yeah, there's a way, like I said, there's a way of saying it that doesn't make you feel dumb. I think that's the key. When somebody does it in a way that you feel dumb, it never works. But if that person does it in a way that you feel, you just like, oh, okay, I was wrong. I mean, we do all have a part of our knowledge that is a little flawed and maybe needs correcting. It's not because we're dumb or anything. It's just sometimes it happens. We might have something that's like, oh yeah, that's the way it is. Christy Freitas, nice to have you here from Nashville, and drinking lemonade and eating dinner. So cool. WF7IO Bruce says, my opinion on hams is 20, 30 years ago, far friendlier on the bands. Now I hear a lot of guys lecturing and condescending others, not to mention lots of politics. Things are different now. Yeah. I was listening to the 80-meter band the other day, and I think at least of all the, let's say there were like 40 different hams or frequencies where there was some activity. There was a lot of activity that night. I noticed that half of them were Trump, politics, stuff like that. And I was like, boring. I mean, I understand that, someone to have a conversation about that, but I was looking at the conversations and I was like, there's so much more interesting stuff to talk about than fill the ham bands with politics of what you think is right and what you think is wrong. And it's like, I put politics and religion in the same basket. In what I mean is, there are people with whom personally you can talk about religion or politics. Everybody has a point of view on that. But why don't fill out the ham bands with technical talk or more positive talk? It doesn't have to be technical all the time. I mean, we're kind of technical a little bit in our hobby and the way we see things happen. But there's so much other stuff to talk about in life, and politics is never positive, because the more we go, the more politics, wherever you are around the world, even here in Canada, is polarized to make us be hateful at each other rather than be helpful at each other. And I think that's a sad state of affair when politics is dividing us rather than making us great as a country or whatever. I think politics has gone wrong, totally. Randy in Riverside, California, nice to have you here. Mark Allen, I remember when hams were Radio Shack managers. Yeah, there were some, absolutely. I mean, I remember when people at Radio Shack know what they were talking about. Today it's almost a joke when you go to an electronics store because it's like, yeah, well, I need an F connector that would go to the. I was like, you mean this? And I still remember, and it's not just radio stuff. I remember going when I was a tech guy. I would, sometimes you need a part, you don't have it. The person needs it now. And I had in my head a map of all the computer stores around where I would go to my clients. Because if I needed something now, then I would, okay, the closest computer shop is there. I'm going to go to get it there, even though it's going to cost me a fortune, And I remember going to a computer shop. So the computer I was fixing was a Mac, and I don't remember exactly what she had, but I needed a FireWire cable. And I still remember. I went to the shop that had a big Apple logo that they would help you with Apple stuff. I said, hey, I need a FireWire cable. And a guy took out a cable out of a box and he said, is it like this? And it's like, no, that's a USB cable. I need a FireWire cable for a Mac computer. Because the hard drive from that client he has no idea. The guy has no idea what a FireWire cable is. At the same time, there's a lady in the store that's watching. There's packs of Western Digital external hard drives, and I still remember. She looks at the guy. She says, "Is that hard drive compatible with a Mac?" He looks at her and he says, "Well, wait. We're gonna look at the box." And I'm like, "Really? You have to look at the box?" I looked at the woman and I said, well, first of all, you should buy your stuff anywhere but here because he doesn't know what he's doing. Second of all, yes, that hard drive will be compatible with your Mac, but you will need to reformat it on the Mac because it's formatted for a PC. So you will need to reformat it on your Mac for it to work, but it will work. And radio is the same. I mean, I remember going to Radio Shack. When I was 15 at Radio Shack, you would explain your problem, or people would explain what they're having, and they would say, "Well, you need this box that will," and they knew what they were doing. Today was like, do you know what a resistor is all about and what it does? I went to yesterday. So, little story. I want to talk tonight. So, sorry, guys. Little story. I talked about my local, the Source store, which was a Radio Shack that was converted. When Radio Shack changed here in Canada, they became the Source by Circuit City, and now they're called just the Source. And for a long time, the Source, the one here, not very far from where I live, still had old parts from the old Radio Shack. They had a wall full of Archer branded and all of the brands that Radio Shack had at the time, but there were resistors, capacitors. There was all sorts of stuff on that wall. I had not got, so I didn't go to, so that Source, I didn't go there at least for the last more than 6 months. I mean, already I would go there much because there was nothing interesting anymore. And yesterday I decided to go in because there was absolutely no one. I mean, the stores here are so quiet. I'm like, it's crazy. I went into the store and I thought, there's no one. I'm going to go around, And I was just noticing how boring of a store it is today with nothing. I mean, you know, oh yeah, we got big screen TVs. Yeah, well, I don't buy big screen TVs from here. Well, you know, if I buy a big screen TV, I'm not gonna buy it from here. I don't want to. I don't care about you selling big screen TVs or stuff. You know, there's no shortwave radios, no nothing. It's like, okay, that's kind of mainstream. You know, yeah, you want to sell me you want to sell you know, a smartphone or it's like, what the hell? So what is this? This is a joke. You know. Anyways, let's continue here. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. Hard Exotic Raptor says Facebook group seriously is the best shortwave radio group here. There is. I feel as though I can post and not be jumped on. And it's got to stay like that, honestly. David says radios today are cheaper, smaller, and have more features. Don't know how I ever did without a digital readout. I know. Same here. I remember when I got the realistic DX 100, dreaming of getting a digital display. Nick, miss going into Radio Shack back in the 80s when it was a great electronics store and there wasn't really anything else. Yep, absolutely. Shitty Power 90. I joined 11 meter band RSN group on Facebook and have been given a call sign of 9RSN428. Cool. Cool. Joe Sombra US, nice to have you here from Brazil. Pretty cool. Super 20 Dan. Mark Allen heard some unknown history on shortwave. Nick says, I don't have too much CB activity in my area, unfortunately. I listen to the skips sometimes roll on 11 meter, but you can listen to echo mics and distortion for so long on channel 6. Yeah. SoCalF1, nice to have you here. David says, being bilingual gives you a richer experience in all aspects of life. We were richer having lived in Germany and knowing German. Yeah, I would guess. Prasad says, today you look official with the shirt in place of your YouTube shirt. Yeah, I thought it'd be all beautiful and nice for you guys. Like you care. No, you know, I don't wear. I was thinking the other day. I got like at least 15 shirts, different shirts that I don't wear anymore because I don't go out of the house working anymore. You know, I would be all clean and nice with those when I would go to fix computers, but now, you know, I'm here, but it doesn't mean I can't be a beautiful man. Hey guys. Mark Allen, remember the old timer talking about the earthquake that started the Sutton Death Mark? What's that? Ronald Zuccola, nice to have you here, Ronald. And says our friend from Finland had a lot to say 3 years ago, but he was wrong. And where he is now, he's gone, and your show continues to entertain. Absolutely, Ronald. Totally right. That's it. You know, I never pretended that I knew everything, but there are ways to do and say things, and that's the way it is. MDK2, Matt, nice to have you on board. Tom the Xer, 4VEH. I haven't thought of them in a very long time. And yeah, man, souvenirs of the 60-meter band full of signals in the 80s. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Pretty cool to have everybody here, my friends. No problem, Matt. Tristan P, nice to have you here, Tristan. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from North Carolina. Nice to have everybody on board. What else do we have? What else do we have? Shady Pyro 90 managed to get a QSL card from Radio Marti yesterday in the mail. Oh, wow. You know what? You know when sometimes you aren't thinking about it? I never thought about writing to Radio Marti to get a QSL, honestly. It's funny because it's like all over the place here in North America. Signal's so strong here in Montreal all the time. It's crazy. It's crazy. Rufus says, I listen to the news from everywhere I can. Shortwave listening is great for that. Make my own opinions. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Jason Francis, nice to have you here, Jason, from Ottawa, Canada. Pretty cool. Marcos Antonio says, my peeps keep telling me why radio when I have Alexa and internet. Because the day that the internet goes away, that Alexa, first of all, will stop working. And you'll have radio. Because that can happen. PageMaster, well, last year, 2019, I met my goal of 250 QSL cards. Cool. Eric from Milwaukee, nice to have you on board, my friend. Shady Power 90, definitely agree on listening to other countries' opinion. Whenever I listen to Radio Havana, Cuba, they always have some interesting opinions. You know, Radio Havana, Cuba is kind of a little controversial. I mean, they're very... one thing for sure, they have a lot of anti-American way of thinking. It's very obvious. I think even when there's something that is totally in disagreement with your opinion, still, you know, rather than just pushing it aside, listening to it just to see what they have to say, I think in little parts here and there, you can get some information and think about, well, oh, okay, yeah, maybe, you know. I mean, Radio Havana, I don't listen much. I haven't listened much to Radio Havana Cuba in a while now. There's something about Radio Havana Cuba that I don't. I mean, the Cuban music's fine. But there's something about, well, of course, if they had a better signal and better audio, maybe I'd listen more often. But there's something about it that I have to say, listening to the French service of Radio Havana Cuba is different from listening to the English language. It's kind of not in the same way, you know. There's no, in the French language, there's very little US bashing or ranting. In the French service, it's different. It is more like trying to learn more about Cuba and Cubans in general. And I've seen that from a few services. You know, another service that I'll rant here at Radio Exterior de España, okay? I mean, it's fine to have music, but Radio Exterior de España's English language program is a crap of music. And I mean, it's fine to get back on shortwave with something, but can you just talk a little more and talk a little more about Spain and the Spanish life and whatever? Because there's like music all the time. The French service of Radio Exterior de España has so much more talking and interesting aspects of Spanish life. And I'm like, wow, okay, the French service, you really got it. But the English language, Spain service, I'm sorry, it's crap. I hope you're listening. Talk more and stop putting music all the time. It's getting boring. Radio Havana Cuba, even if it had a good signal, there's so much more to what they do that could happen. You can rant. I get it. you are frustrated with U.S. measures and the blah, whatever is happening. But instead of ranting all the time at poor little me, I'm getting kicked on by the US, there's still so much more you can bring to a program. And maybe more people, if you'd have a English language Cuban program or show that talks a lot more about why you are the way you are, first of all, and why Cuba is like that, and are more open at what Cuban life is all about, I think there would be an audience that might be even a little more interesting. Look at Arnie Coro. There's something about Arnie Coro's, DXers Unlimited that is kind of, I don't know. There's some kind of honesty and just being Arnie Coro that's kind of interesting. I know that there's a rant going on Arnie Caro and Glenn Hauser, but at the same time, it's like there's something innocent in the way it is that's fun to listen to, and I think radio doesn't always have to be ranting at something. Look at the communist countries in the 80s. Most of them, even though they had an opinion of, they could be anti-American, they could be anti-Western civilization. A lot of the programs were very light and very just, let's have fun and be happy and talk about something. And I think you get your message across a lot more if that's the way you do it. Whatever your opinion, whatever you think about others, then, well, the United States is, Satan, and we hate you. You're not getting a message across saying that, at all. Why don't you just talk a little more about whatever and do it in an easy way of, I want to run Radio Havana Cuba. I'll be there in the summer, like 30 degrees all the time. I'm going to run Radio Havana Cuba. Welcome to Radio Havana Cuba. And today, in our show, Harney Coro is going to talk about the solar cycle. And then we'll talk about how Cubans are going to the beaches or something, or trying to live anyways. I don't know. It'd be more fun. Oh, God. Rifleman 336, nice to have you on board from from Southwest Ohio. Alex, N8UCN. Cyberflyer 1, nice to have you here from England. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. Paul the Cat, Pirate Radio. Yes, we want that. Paul the Cat. MEOW. Meow all the time. Okay, let me I lost my space here. I'm going to try to get a little faster because Vet08 says, how does traditional shortwave pirate radio, not internet pirate, broadcast without radio stations? Well, they use amateur radio equipment, sometimes modified or amplified, but most of them have their own transmitters. Blind Picker, nice to have you here, Rob. W0RAB in Connecticut. Oh, man. Sergeant Rock says, great rank chew about the hobby. Sea beers, wet, rainy, and salt air, acid rain, Hawaii, such as paradise. The termites, roaches are flying. So nice to have you here. Kimberly, K6YYL, recommends a Yaesu FD60R for relatively easy handheld. Cool. Cool. We forget it, but I mean, even a portable today is a complex piece of equipment. It's a piece of technology there. Bill from Seattle, nice to have you on board. WF7I Omru says, yep, you nailed it with on-air politics. Best conversations are tech ones, sometimes down on 80 or 160 are interesting QSOs, but these seem to be more rare these days. I understand. I mean, politics and more than ever with what's happening right now, without going into any details, it's something that we talk a lot about, but we got to stop because we moved on from. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or if it's because it's getting worse, but I have the impression that I remember being young when politics was there to unite a nation. And today, politics is there to divide the nation like crazy. And that I don't like. And I will not like politics that goes that way. It's like in our hobby. We talked earlier, I talked about how we got to stop, those that are bashing on those that are CBers or shortwave listeners. It's never nice. Well, it's not because my political opinion is different than yours that we have to rant or go at it. It's not the way it should be. It's not the way it should be. Shelly, nice to have you on board from Pennsylvania. You are right, David. Politics is so political. Shouldn't be like that. 21 Purnawanan channel. Nice to have you here from Jakarta, Indonesia. Nice to have you here. WF79 says, in the really old days, now that's far. The Radio Shack tech guys were gurus and knew their stuff, but the expertise really rapidly declined, especially once cell phones became the big item. Radio Shack became so standard and ignorant in their technology. I would say at the end of the 80s, early 90s, when everything became too standard. Yeah, the ICOM R1000. I don't even know. The ICOM R1000. I remember the Kenwood R1000, but not the ICOM. Chrissy, politics, certain conspiracy theories, phobias based on race, gender, identity, and sexual orientation. Some folks get bent out of shape. We are all different, but what we should not be are jerks. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Nicodarius, I have to go. I'll remember Paul the Cat is king of the live stream. Take care, my friend. Larry Cordy, nice to have you here from New York. But that's where we don't need to fall into all of this and just be happy with what we have, whatever our differences, we're all different. And thank God we are all different. If we were all the same, it would be a boring planet. And we have to live through that and understand that. And that's why I always go back to shortwave. I always try to think that, listening to the world's opinion on the shortwave bands makes us different people and maybe better people, because we can make an opinion based upon all the knowledge we gathered from, different stations in different countries. We can't say that the USSR was all bad. Like we can't say the United States is all good. There's always somewhere in the middle all of that is happening. Some of the communist ideas are not bad ideas, but you know what? The communist side is the same as the Western side, the politics that gets into it, and the battles of all of these people at the top are screwing up everything and making everything bad because they want to hold on to power. The people at the bottom have to live through that. You know, it's easy for all of us. We tend to think that even with our voting process in Canada and the US, that we're changing something. But I think it's harder than ever to understand that when I go to vote, I'm really actually changing something. I'm really actually changing the world. It seems that it got blurred somewhere, you know, where I used to vote and that would change the country's direction. Today is I vote and I'm actually almost starting to wonder why I should get my ass off of my chair and go vote today, because you look at what's out there and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go vote for what? Like I can vote for that or that or that. But in the end, there's always something that you're like, I don't know what to do anymore. And enough politics, anyways. Shortwave forever. I want to be Prime Minister of Canada. I want to become the first Prime Minister that will promise a shortwave radio, a good one, for every Canadian citizen. So who wants to vote for me? Please raise your hand, raise your glass, and I want to be put in power. Shortwave radios for everybody. And let's bring back Radio Canada International. That's the second thing that we're going to do. And I want to be let's start a movement, a president of North America. I will want shortwave radios for everybody and a voice for shortwave of Canada and US and Mexico and whatever. Yeah, okay. Too much alcohol tonight. Cheers, everybody. WF7I Homebrew. Ham radio outlet stores still have some Radio Tech gurus, but those stores are so rare. Yeah, you know what? Okay. There still is out there some stores that are absolutely knowledgeable, but they are very specialized. One of them here in Canada that I purchased a few radios is Radio World in Toronto. I mean, the guys there know what they're talking about. Totally, totally. Simon Templar, nice to have you here from smoky Portland, Oregon. So over there also, there's a lot of smoke. Wow. Power 90, agree. For those who like my NOAA 15 video yesterday on the Facebook group, thank you. Yeah, I saw that with your little handheld. It was nice. It was nice. I got so much positive feedback from the VHF UHF live show talking about satellites. I even got a few people saying, you know what? I never really listened to satellites, but I watched your show and now I want to do it. And that's what I want this to be. A bunch of people having fun with radio. And having fun in general, anyways. Joseph Ickenbaum, nice to have you here from San Francisco Bay, California. Hope you're not too much smoky out there. Bill says tons of fires in Washington. Yeah, I'm hearing it's like up and down the West Coast, pretty much. Crazy. Oh, I want some Shady Power 90 homemade mac and cheese. Please send some to me. Not by mail, because it's probably going to be very weird when it gets here. But I can't think about a mac and cheese that spent a week in the mail. I'm not sure I want to eat it. Oh, man. William Helms. Before that, did you know that Circuit City bought Lafayette? Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know what was circuits, Circuit City and all of that before they purchased Radio Shack here in Canada. Marcus Antonio, can someone explain to me what ham radio is and what device or radio I need to use it to listen to it? Okay. So if you have a radio that has single sideband, you can listen to amateur radio operators everywhere. Ham radio is simply licensed people like you and me that went through a course, that learned, and that can, with a license that they actually got because they followed an amateur radio course and have technical knowledge. They're on the air and they can talk and they can do contacts with other ham radio operators from around the world. And any radio that has single sideband, and I mean, any radio can listen to ham radio operators. It's just that if you don't have single sideband on your receiver, you'll listen to only the AMers, which is very limited. But if you have a single sideband receiver, there are amateur radio bands all across the shortwave spectrum where you will get amateur radio operators from everywhere around the world. RJDA Dakota says, Archer, Micronta, Realistic, those three brands made up most of what they did. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Mongoose, nice to see you. Well, nice to have you on board. Nice to see you. I can't see you, but nice to have you in the chat. Man. What is happening with the audio tonight, exactly? Canadian Radio TV guy. Anything wrong? The only thing is I'm further away from my microphone. The microphone is a little... I would have to move a little closer. Hirofumi Yokoyama, nice to have you here from Japan. Hope you are well, my friend. Keegan has a Broadcast Team Radio Shack shirt. Cool. Canadian Radio TV got a new haircut. Actually, both of my barbershops are still not open. So I took the clipper on number 6 and I just went through like this. And this is what it looks like. The funniest thing is I got my haircut with professionals all the time. Nobody ever said a word. And this is the second time that I'm doing my number 6. And I got like tons of people saying, I like your hair. Yeah, I'm going to pay $30 to get my haircut now. That everybody says when I do it myself, my hair is great. I don't know why. It's like, you know. And Hal says, I may be getting the ICOM R8600 receiver from an estate sale here for a good price. What kind of exterior antenna would you recommend for this receiver? So you'll need 2 antennas at least, because there's a connector for the HF. So anything for long wave, medium wave, short wave, wire, long wire, dipole, or a loop. If you have low noise, a good wire, might be a good idea. But you will need one for the VHF, UHF range of the receiver. Maybe a discount or I don't know. It's difficult because wideband, even the best wideband antenna has its dips where it's not really good. So, if I had one, what I would do, and I've had a lot of place and no low noise, I would put a really long wire antenna for the HF, medium wave, long wave. I would probably still have an MLA30 or some loop, magnetic loop. And I would have a discount, probably a discount. A good discount, like from Diamond. Diamond makes one that is apparently really good. I've been actually thinking of purchasing one for the VHF, UHF range. But there's so much you can do because it depends what you want to listen to. Erica Chow, nice to have you on board. No, last week I was taking my week off. This week is where I'm back, and I'm back for good. So every week now I'm going to be here. So Chris Powell, your flag reminds me of the movie Goonies. Oh man, the Goonies. Brings me back a long time. And nice to have you here from Minnesota. AE0IY. I need a scheduled commercial break to refill the beverage. Well, I can do that. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. I don't know how many of you are going to see it. Okay. But here's a commercial break now. And I don't know if some of you had an ad, but I just inserted an ad because I can do this. I never do it. But I have a button in the live stream where I can actually insert an ad. So I don't know how many of you did see an ad actually pop up. Yogi Me. Random question. Which station's interval signals are also useful for an ice cream van? Oh man, I would use Radio Romania. That is so easy to hear, like at tons of distance, that I would say that would be a great one. Oh man. Cyberflyer 1 spent hours on tendies on Saturdays when I was a kid looking at the radios and always wanted a realistic DXing 160. And I have one for over 10 years and love it and would not sell it. You know, I really I still remember, if I had all the money in the world, man, I would have purchased so many things from that. We are all the same in that geekiness, basically, because it's a very geek thing. You know, I was actually talking this week with a friend of mine. We were talking about Radio Shack had here, and I guess they would have it everywhere. It was not advertised. It was not advertised in the catalog, anything. But here, they had a little brown box. It was just a cardboard box. They would sell it for, if I still remember, they would sell it for like $10. And they would call it a surprise box. Every time you would purchase one, you didn't know what was inside. But I would purchase one from time to time because there were so many things in there. There could be batteries. There could be all sorts of electronic parts and chips. There would be, I remember the first one I purchased, I was like, wow, there's a 27 megahertz transmitter. And what I learned is that apparently it was their repair service, because they had their repair benches where you could send and have your stuff repaired. And when something was discontinued or they didn't need parts anymore, they would actually bundle all of that into a little brown box and they would call it the surprise box. And you would have all sorts of things in there. I don't know how many of those boxes I've purchased. And I was telling a friend this week that one of my friends when I was young was kind of very geeky, also electronic. And one day it was after Christmas. I remember after Christmas, and I was maybe 14. He was younger. He was like 12. But we would hang out a little bit because he was geeky, and we would talk electronics. And I still remember we went to Radio Shack, and I saw one of those boxes, and I said, "Oh, I want to have one." And he was from a poor family, so it's like you could he didn't have money to buy one, and he looked at my box, and his eyes was like really like illuminated, like, oh, you're so lucky to have the money to buy that. And I remember I think it was one of my uncles that had given me $50. And I mean, $50 in 1983, 4 was a lot of money. And I remember I looked at him and I said, you want one? I mean, we're friends. It's your Christmas gift. And man, he was so happy. And so I purchased 2 boxes. You never knew what was inside. And I remember I showed him the box. I said, which one you want? It's your choice. But we don't know what's inside. So it could be better than mine. It could be worse than mine. We don't know. And we ended up going at his home because his parents were working all day long. So he was alone all day. And we went up and we were in the kitchen, in his kitchen. We opened the boxes and I said, you know what? Let's just draw the box, what's the content of the box on the table and see what's inside each boxes. And we ended up actually having a lot more fun because there were things he liked and he didn't like. And some of the things he didn't like, I actually wanted. We ended up just like sharing our boxes and making like an even better box, basically, because he had stuff he really wanted. I had stuff I really wanted. And it was so cool, But only Radio Shack would do things like that. And it's just crazy when you think about it because we're geeks. I mean, yeah, so you're going to spend $10 in a box. You don't know what's inside and have a bunch of resistors and capacitors and meters and motors and woohoo! I want one. Actually, today I'd spend $10 on another one. I'd spend $20 to have one of those boxes today. Oh man. Eric Cottrell has the R8600 or straight on HF, but I mainly use it for VHF, UHF. I use a Walbrook loop for HF and a discount and long periodic beam for VHF and above. Oh, man. Okay. Kent of Kent. And then after the EMP. Sakura DX, nice to have you on board. Going to Yahatama. Oh, wow. Yahatahama for flying. Cool. Nice to have you here from Japan. Kicks. I got back into radio when the electric went out. It will happen no matter where you live. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. I'm Radio Extreme. Nice to have you here. Okay, let me go down slowly. What do we have? Keegan says, how about the Gilles show with Gilles in place of Alex Jones? So, I was listening to Shortwave last night, wearing my tinfoil hat. I noticed that, when I put my tinfoil hat and I clip the alligator clip to it, Shortwave is even better. Oh, God. Trent, what kind of radio am I using? All sorts of radios. Andy Coley, nice to have you here, my friend. Yarabamba. I like Radio Exterior de España because they broadcast soccer games in shortwave. I remember listening to Eurocup final. Yeah, that I would guess for somebody that's really fond of soccer or what you guys in Europe call football is absolutely. Matt, occasionally I see the list transmitting politically in my head. No sense with some people. Yep. Yeah, eventually, Andy Coley. I know. You guys want me to get my ham ticket. I know. Hang in there. I'll do my best. Angela, nice to have you on board from the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. Cool. Eric says 3 weeks since the start of the retirement. Still do not have enough time to do everything I like. Absolutely. Because now you're focused on so many things that you wanted to do that you are doing that you still have no time. And that's perfect. That's perfect. That's the type of retirement you want. You know, when I was a tech guy, so many people in retirement, I couldn't understand that. Didn't know what to do with their lives. It was crazy. Sikaris. It's much harder for a nation to see all the corruption and fix it. They are too busy fighting each other. Yeah, absolutely. Part of it is true. That's for sure. That's for sure. That's for sure. Prasad, yesterday saw a video which said Radio Shack is still in business and you ordered a receipt. Yeah, I saw that. I saw someone post the AM FM receiver for Radio Shack. Matt, there are a few independent Radio Shacks still around. I don't think we have any in Denver anymore. I'm lucky because I have, even though it's changed, it's still nice. There's an electronics store called Addison Electronics not far from here. When I was young, there was a lot more parts and a lot more coolness to it. I would go with my friend, the same guy, his name is Stefan, the same guy that I purchased that, surprise box. We would go there and spend an afternoon looking at all the electronic stuff there. It's still cool today because it still has a feel of, it still has the feel that's more close to Radio Shack, even in 2020. It is apparently the biggest surplus electronics retailer in Canada. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I don't know how many times I came close to it. They have a Sangean ATS 404, I think it is, for $140. Every time I went there 6 or 7 times in the last year, and it's like every time I see the radio, it's like, buy it. And part of me says, don't buy it. $140, $140 is a little expensive for it, and so on. But somebody did buy it because I noticed that. So the radio's there. It's a Sangean. I'm pretty sure it's the Sangean ATS 404, and they had below it like 7 or 8 boxes, and now there's only the one that is in demonstration. There doesn't seem to be any left. So I guess some people purchased it. Are they listening to Shortwave on it? I'd like to know. Ham Radio Extreme from Alberta, but won't talk about, I think we don't talk about anything here. I'm from Quebec, so, it's kind of complicated here too. I think we have to talk. We have to stop having those politicians talk for us and have us talk together. That'll be better. Joe Cool, nice to have you here. Any thoughts on the ICOM ICR6? I've never used one. I think I've seen one. I'm not sure I've seen one, but I can't really. Anybody has one that can give his opinion of it? Memory Extreme, how about outlawing encryption? You can't. I mean, if anybody wants to, encrypt communications, here, I remember one thing is that a couple of weeks ago, so here in the province of Quebec, there's a system called RENIR, which is a government encrypted system for the communications of police and every type of government communications. And I'll be fair here. You know what? Honestly, because I've heard, and you know what? I want you guys' opinions on this, because I've heard stories of thieves using scanner radios to do crimes, so that they can actually they'll know when the cops were warned, so they can actually get away. How many of you actually believe that scanner radios, in the times when everything was analog, were that important in preventing law enforcement or whatever system of, like, to arrest people, or preventing arrest of someone because they heard on the scanner radio of, I have no, I will say one thing that's very personal, and I know everybody has an opinion on this. Some of them, some are more, polarized. Or I think law enforcement communications should always stay analog. Why? I don't think being analog that everybody can listen to is changing anything. And the more you encrypt communications, especially police, the more it feels like we're in a state where everything needs to be as secret as possible, which in turn will give us the sense that maybe we're controlled more and we don't know what's happening. We're talking about how politics is driving us apart. I don't think police encryption is actually helping in there. And part of it is not necessarily because they think it's necessary. I think there's these big companies, communication companies, that just want to push their own systems. So the provincial police here, Sûreté du Québec, is still analog on the VHF range. But apparently it's very near to being to an end, because they are going to move to a new system where everything's going to be encrypted. And apart from the fact that when they read a license plate and they give personal details of everybody, I understand why it should be encrypted. Knowing what they do, because we're listening to it, I think is not a bad idea. I'd rather know what my police force is doing than not knowing, because now everything is secret. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Rob says, raise his hand and votes for Jill. Bill says, voting yes. Page Master has his hand up. Keegan votes for me. Jason has my vote. Thomas says, being human and honest in communication makes for good radio, and like usual, I would like to hear more of it. Yeah. Ham Radio Extreme. Michelle, I use a Kenwood V71A and discount, and it blows away everything else for satellite, even my ICOM 87 IC9700. WS09 just worked OP5K in Belgium on 40 meters CW with his new antenna. Cool. That is nice. Eric Cottrell, that's nice. Some of the hams in my area, Boston, Massachusetts, were able to work a bunch of 2-meter repeaters in Nova Scotia. Wow. Cool. Yeah, Evans above for satellite tracking. Bobby Burgess votes for Jill and for radio preservation. That's cool. Eric, a radio in every pot. Sneaky, sneaky. Let's have you here. Cool AM Radio. Nice to have you here, Andre. Cool. What do we have? Take care, WF7I Ombro. A beer ad would be nice. Yeah, that's true. A beer ad would be nice. There's a sequel to the Goonies that's coming up. I want to see. I want to. I want to see Cyndi Lauper in it. A beer break at the top of the hour. Yingli CA says James Johnson shortwave radio shows like the 30s. Oh man. Frankie Muniz, who uses shortwave radio in 2020? We got something called phones. Well, yeah, what do phones do? Nothing. Except, you know, people are on Facebook on phones and ranting at each other. Radio in 2020 is the most important thing. Your phone is not worth a piece of crap when everything goes down. You know, maybe that's what we need today. We need to have some kind of major breakdown. Nothing serious, nothing that's going to kill anyone, but something serious enough that for a day or two is going to make notice to everybody that without radio, you ain't got anything. You don't have news. Nothing's happening anymore. So I can tell you one thing, Frankie. That day when that cell phone and your internet's down, you'll see that a radio is worth much more than when you think. I can tell you that. RJDA Dakota, most people around the world cannot afford the internet. Radio is always available. That's why, you know, look at one very specific thing. If shortwave was unnecessary, look at the BBC World Service. That is probably, I'd like to see numbers. I've never looked at numbers, but I would think that the BBC World Service is the biggest shortwave service in the world right now. Voice of America is pretty big too, but I think the BBC actually beats Voice of America. But that's my personal opinion, and I have no numbers, so I don't know. It could be the other way around, and I'm not sure. Why would the BBC World Service, why does the Voice of America spend so much money on shortwave broadcasting if everybody has a phone and everybody has the internet? Because somebody somewhere knows that it's not the way it works at all. At all. It's not just a passion, Frankie. I can tell you that. Mongoose, would you recommend the Countycon GP5 SSB? Here's two things. So the positive and the negative, I'll have to say, okay? And it has to do with a lot of stuff. You know, there's a lot of positive and negative and everything. I don't like to be given radios because I know that at some point somebody is going to give the radio is going to say, well, you know, because I give you a radio, you have to talk positive about it all the time. And that's one of the reasons I prefer to purchase my radios. I can freely and happily say what I think. The Countycon GP5, and by the way, it is a Texan PL365, okay? Same radio, rebranded. Very sensitive, Amazing little receiver. Interesting form factor. Easy tuning mode, the best of all. ETM is great, faster, and really good. That's a positive. And it's a general coverage, and it has single sideband. The negative side to it is battery drains like crazy. So never put alkalines in there, because if you want to use it in a month, your alkalines are dead. Something drains the battery crazy in it, even when it's shut down. No keypad makes it dreadfully difficult to use correctly. That thing, if you want to tune an out of band frequency somewhere, is so crazy to tune that you're like, yeah, forget it. You end up like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna spend like 20 minutes trying to tune 27055, because you know what? I got radios that I can just punch it in. It's gonna be easier. If it had a keypad, oh man, it would be a great radio. No keypad, it's a downer a little bit. But I've found a use for it. I'm happy to have it. I want to thank County Comp for giving me a GP5 SSB. But I use it only for ETM, easy tuning mode, to scan the bands and see what's in the shortwave spectrum that you can get in the international broadcasts. So that's the negative and positive, honest take on it. That's it. Yogi, my DXing R9710 has arrived 2 days ago. Greatest shortwave short pocket analog radio ever. Pointer is surprisingly accurate, and I don't really need digital readout. Okay. I'm Radio Extreme. By the way, my comment about dispatch channels, I've been a scanner guy for 40 plus years. Criminals using scanners for crime, almost unheard here, as they have encryption where needed. Yeah, Eric, I do not have an ICOM R6, but I heard the lack of keyboard is a pain. Okay. Matt, I don't believe scanners help crooks evade police. That would have been covered in news if there were a problem. I don't believe law enforcement are encrypting radio for those reasons at all. Yeah, it could. I think the encryption is selling. I think most of my experience and my thinking is that companies that sell radio equipment, repeaters, and stuff need to sell all the time. So they're selling encrypted radio to services, pushing it as this is secure, no one can listen to you. Not necessarily because they want it, but they have good PR, so they're able to sell it. I think it's more of a salesman thing than anything else. Okay, anything else? Maxi 76 Cindy Lauper doesn't look too bad in those psoriasis commercials. William Moser, nice to have you here. You know what? She looks like a lady, but she doesn't look bad, Yeah, Thunderbird has great videos. Thunderbird has great videos. Hey, Jeff Barrett, nice to have you here. I'm going to say one thing, Joe Cool, is I just hope you're not Todderbird coming here to do that. because that would be very crappy, because I never use an occasion to promote myself in a way like this. But Todderbird does nice videos. I never did advertise myself on any other channel just for the fun of it. That's all I'm going to say. DD says poor countries don't have phones or internet and still rely on radio to reach the public. Absolutely. Absolutely. Amateur Extreme, use the Econicom with the stock antenna and get Chicago from here 2,700 kilometers inside my house. Marvin Motts. Nice to have you here. Rational people will start using radio to communicate with each other because radio is least controlled and more free of bias. Yeah, possible. Prasad says BBC here broadcasts also on medium wave 1413 comes strong and late in the evening night, so one who does not have a shortwave radio can listen to it on medium wave. Yeah, there's a lot of relays, and they do have a lot of FM relays around the world also. Hammer Extreme, live set of tuning at a Econicom. Very true. I only use mine on medium wave. I have a ton of radios that, oops. I lost my space. Sorry, guys. So I only spend medium wave. I have a ton of radios that is not my issue. Yeah, antenna. Yep. What else do we have? Hey, Steve from Australia. Nice to have you on board. Seven Templars. Joel, you might want to check your email. I just sent you a picture so you can see what it's like in Portland right now. Let me check it out here. I need my phone. Where's my phone? I lost my phone. Paul ate my phone. So I don't have my phone, but I do have this. So let's check out. Because I've seen pictures of California today, and it's totally crazy. So, yep, here you have. Here's what it's looking like in Portland, Oregon. He says, or could I say greetings from the planet for the surface of Mars? Look at that. This is so weird. So weird looking. Look at that, guys. It is like the planet Mars, honestly. Look at that. So weird. It's really crazy what's happening with the forest fires. Really crazy. Man. Thanks for sharing. Joseph Ickenbaum, medium wave is always surprisingly fun. Yeah, it is. Even here. I mean, it's, you know, very, there's like, when I listen to medium wave, there's all these stations like sharing or broadcasting the same thing, but it's still kind of interesting to hear what's happening, especially with the US medium wave broadcast band. So different than from what's happening here in Canada. And this show is sponsored by a kitty called Paul. Right here. Oops. Here. Here's Mr. Paul saying hi to everybody. Or maybe not. So Mr. Paul saying hello. And you are watching the Shortwave Radio Show, where we are live and talking about, here we go, talking about, well, let's put it like this. Radio and shortwave radio, an important medium. Brickport, do you think digital shortwave has a future? Unless they find some magical way of broadcasting it, no. DRM for me is dead and should have been dead for a long time. Gordon Lyle, nice to have you here. From Southern Illinois. English CA is VE3TYA. I was asked what I like better, radio or television. I said radio because the pictures are better. Yeah, because your imagination. Gordon, I saw something about that. I'm not sure yet because I heard something about it, and I saw something quickly about it. But I'm just gonna do a quick search here because I saw something about it. Voice of Vietnam leaving shortwave. I don't know. Okay, let's check it out here. Vietnam. Vietnam. Yeah. West Vietnam revealed its new logo, representing a vision of a strong desire to thrive as the media agency. It will celebrate its 75th founding anniversary on September 7th. That's interesting. Will it do it or not? I noticed that because they did celebrate their 75th anniversary, but we'll need to investigate this a little more, Gordon, and check it out. I saw something going, I think it was on the World of Radio group about this. Oh, it's from your drone, Simon Templar? So weird. Or it's really so weird. It's really crazy what's happening on the West Coast, that's for sure, in the U.S. Matt says, was looking like that in Fort Collins the other day, but the winter blast we got blew the smoke out of here. Pretty crazy. Yingli CA bought a Belka shortwave receiver and MMA's best radio for $140. Really? Really nice. Kind of nice. Take care, Cottrell. Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UTC. What else do we have? Marvin Motts, radio is better. The philosophers and other deep thinkers in the community, I have noticed, do not watch television but listen to radio because such is more intellectual stimulation. Yeah, maybe. 6925. Let's check it out here. 6925 USB. Is there anything here? I got some kind of weird. I had like a weird digital mode, but nothing. I got a big blob of that digital signal on 6865 ish, up to 6915 or ish almost 69.20. But nothing on 6925 here. Oh, wait. Maybe very weak. I'm not sure, but maybe very weak. But it's not very good here. Memory stream has nothing on 6925. Matt says if you don't have 6925, I'd be in the skip zone. That's possible. Pretty much nothing here. There's that huge blob, though. Jeff Barrett, crazy powerful here. So you guys more west seem to have it real strong. I've got nothing here. Not even a... Is there music right now? Because sometimes I have the impression I'm hearing music. Okay, so it's... I sometimes hear a little something with music, but it's most of the time there's nothing at all. So guys, I have to go pee. What do we do? I continue the show and I just go pee and come back, or we end the show? What do you guys want? Continue the show and take a pee break? I do still have all of this drink before the show ends. How about it? Turn the camera on Paul. Okay. Dexter Morris, can I ask about a AM frequency? Then airfill with smoke and dust ashes effect on band frequencies. On the shortwave spectrum, on the frequencies of shortwave spectrum, that should not affect radio in general, medium wave or AM radio either. But you know what? As we go higher in frequency, where more and more of what's around us affects, it could have somewhat of an effect. So I need to go pee. I'll be back in a short while. And while I go pee, here's a look at Mr. Paul the cat. So enjoy. So Paul decided to leave. So welcome back, everybody. Okay, let's check it out. Finish your beer. I like that. So take care, Simon Templar. Always nice to have you on board. We'll be back Friday at 20 hours Universal Time. So come and say hello again. Joseph Ickenbaum's got a bunch of electrical noise. Hold Radio Man, 6925 S8 in Northeast Tennessee. Yes, please do, Jeff Barrett. But it's weak, but I do hear it a little bit. A little bit. Gordon Lyle listening to Radio New Zealand 13840 S6 starting to fade. Hello, fall and short days. I gotta say that radio New Zealand is now pretty difficult here in the evening, and that's we're going to equinox, so summer is going away, unfortunately. Chris Powell, go pee and come back. RJ Dakota, let Paul run the show until you come back. Okay, Greg May, nice to have you here, says, okay, Paul, drink is beer. And then pee in his glass, oh God. James Johnson says, the life of a cat. He puts the shows on pause. I like that. Oh, man. A lot of people here own a PL880, and they pretty much all love it. Pretty much all love it. $6,954. I don't have anything on 6,954. I don't have anything on 6,954. Gordon says Paul couldn't take the fame and left. Well, Ham Radio Extreme, I can tell you, I think we could have a noise competition. I'm pretty sure, comparing yours and mine. Jason Francis, what the heck happened? My PC blue screen when you went pee. I don't know. Not my fault. Mongoose, Shell, where you been hiding lately? Oh, I've been taking a little bit of time off. I've been kind of overloaded a little bit because I've been taking care of someone that is in this final phase of what life is. It's taking a big toll on my own. We want to be the best guys and the best humans in life, but when you take care of somebody that is at the end of life, it takes a toll on yourself also, and that's why I've been taking a few weeks off, because it's been taking a toll on my humor, my energy a lot. So there's that going on. There's a few little things also that is very personal that are going on. And with COVID, not being able to do all that I want, having to be extra careful with what I do because that person could have a consequence it's taking a big toll on my way of being, and I needed to take some time off because, and you guys don't see it because you're having fun watching the show, but having to do 2 or 3 or 4 hours talking and being alert is it's a lot of energy to give out. You got to be there, you got to be present, you got to be always. I can't stand here and just sit and not talk for 10 minutes. It doesn't work like that. I got to be always saying something and talking about something and whatever. So in the past few weeks, that part where I need to be live and talk and have the energy to do it, kind of hard. And it is still tonight a little bit, I got to say, and I got to admit it. But at the same time, this is my life and this is my what I do. So I can't forever just, I mean, people go to work and still have a life with whatever is happening in their own little world. And at some point, you got to do something, and you got to still be there, and you got to still, enjoy. But it's hard sometimes. Honestly, I've had a few difficult moments with all of this, and I try to be, and have the energy level, the maximum energy level that you need all the time. But we're not superheroes and we're not Superman. We need to. Sometimes life is, and even our bodies are telling us, you know what? Why don't you just take off a little bit and relax? Because you're not a superhuman either at the same time. All right, JD, Dakota, like listening to Radio New Zealand and Radio Nacional Amazonas. Music pretty good on, you know, Radio Nacional Amazona. I don't like music shows on shortwave, and I probably mentioned it so many times. But I have to say one thing: Radio Nacional Amazona, Brazilian music sounds so relaxing and so um, good that I do like to listen to that. Tom Rudd, any activity on CB radio? I don't hear anything in Canada. Well, here it's not like it was in the 80s, but there's a little bit of activity. Here there's a gang, there's a nice little gang in Lower Sideman on Channel 16 at night talking tech. There is some activity during the day when I look at it, but I think it depends where you are in Canada. Where are you located in Canada, first of all, Tom? And I'm in Montreal, so it's a big city, so there's always someone somewhere doing some CB. But man, it really isn't what CB was in the 80s or the 70s, that's for sure. Greg May, what beer I'm drinking? Gift from God, the don de Dieu. I'm in extreme. I'm going to mod my PL 880, so less bass, and trying to figure out the medium wave external antenna part. And use my Grundig Satellite 750 instead as better medium wave. Huh, interesting. Magazine 76. Shell's P caused an electromagnetic pulse, which made Jason's computer blue screen. That is powerful P. Oh, man. Ham radio, ham radio streams. Jill, come to Alberta. They're not going to lock us down as per the premier. Yeah, here we're getting it's getting scary here because the cases are starting to get up again, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to go that. I don't want to go through that all again. I mean, already I am not going. I miss my Sunday night bars because that's what life was. I was with my friends and stuff, and because I'm taking care of someone that is at risk, I've been not taking risk myself because I would feel bad. So Joe Cool. I'm in Indianapolis on business, and I brought my Radio Wow 108. 692 is playing music, but isn't it in a single side bin? Steve Miller, you've been a man in Moshell. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I can tell you that. I. Anyways, Yogi here in Hong Kong can pick up Radio New Zealand entertaining 40 between 6 and 8 a.m. local time, sunrise period. Yeah, I like it all in Australia. In Australia, I see a lot of you guys in Australia um, getting Radio New Zealand, that's for sure. Mongoose, totally understandable. We all miss you, Shell. You spoiled us with all your shows during the week. Yeah, I know. Mike Thornton, nice to have you here. WC0L in Kansas. Don't worry. I know you guys understand. Jason says, I understand how you feel. We're all just humans doing our best. Yep, absolutely. Tom near Toronto. Cool. Nice to have you here, Tom. Yeah, if you like Greek music, 9420. Voice of Greece is always very very good. Jim Helms says, "Yep, I was having to help my brother before he died." It's a tough thing, It's it's very complicated. There's so many things that you have to do, and I'm a very sensitive guy. So when things are rough, I live it rough too because I'm very human, and it's a tough thing sometimes. I sometimes kind of like blow a fuse on Facebook from time to time because I just have enough. Gordon, do you ever use headphones with your shortwave radios at home? You know what? Almost never. But now that I have a console with which is plugged into my laptop, which has the SDR play, I actually could listen to what's happening there a lot more with my headphones now. Shady Pyro 90s, 4885, Brazil, and 6180. By the way, there's apparently there's a new station from, I think it's Colombia, on 4940 kilohertz, 4940 kilohertz, that is broadcasting in the last few days. So if you guys want to try that, 4940 apparently has a new Colombia station from South America. So check it out. It's interesting because I'm looking at 4940, and there's a very, very slight trace of something. It's not enough to hear anything, but there's definitely a slight trace of something on 4940 right now here. So apparently there's a new reactivation of a station in Colombia on 4940. RJD Dakota had to help take care of my stepdad until he finally passed. It isn't easy to let a dad go. No. And while you're in it, it's tough to do something else. It's like it drains a lot of energy. It drains a lot of energy. And I'm a little drained, I gotta say. Hey, Sheldon Harvey. Nice to have you here. So if you want to try it, 49, I see a little trace here, but apparently reactivation of 4940, a station from Colombia in the South America. Sierra is getting 9420 in Northern California. Really? Let me try it just now. 9420 Greece. Oh, it's very weak, but it's there. It's weak, but it's there. At 0224 UT. You know what? I'm going to try something. The buzzer. Nothing from the buzzer. I've been hearing a lot of talk near the buzzer frequency, like 4223.5 or something in English. Yep, that's true, RJ Dakota. We have a lot of sports on Radio Amazonia. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like almost like Spain. Almost like Spain. Matt, something on 4885, but it seems to be Kodar on that part of the band as 4940 has a carrier but no audio. RJDA Dakota Radio Colossal used to be on this frequency 4940. I've seen many posts of people hearing the reactivation of Columbia on 4940. I see a trace of something, but it's not good enough to hear anything. Matt says, I'm seeing what looks like a bit of audio on the Waterfall 4940, but not hearing anything on odd bands. Almost everybody that I've seen that they've actually been hearing 4940 were really down south the US or closer to Colombia. G Power 90 getting 6180. Yeah, that one is usually good. At this time, it should be pretty good. 6180. Oh, yeah. Brazil is really good at 6180. And even, you know what? Even 11780 is not as strong, but it's still coming in pretty well. 11780. Sorry. Wow, what's on 11800? I'm hearing music and talk. 11800. I'm hearing something on the 11800. 11800. Anybody hearing the station? What's there at this time? Oh, it's Radio Havana, Cuba. Radio Habana, Cuba in Spanish. I'm not surprised, but it's a frequency I never logged them before. So Radio Havana, Cuba, 11800 coming in really well here. 11800 in Spanish. By the way, guys, if you want to identify a station on shortwave, it's very important not to understand, and that's one thing I wanted to really express, because it's not important to necessarily know propagation. When I look at the shortwave schedules, I noticed that one of the probably what helps the most on shortwave on identifying a station that you're listening to is the language. And you don't have to understand the language to actually know what language it is. For example, Brazil and Portuguese. I can identify Portuguese from Spanish by ear, even though I don't understand a word, just by the way they pronounce, the way that they talk. And I think if you want to be successful in identifying as best as possible whatever you're hearing, learn the differences about language. Another example. Somebody told me once, it's like, well, you know, Japanese, Chinese, the same. No, Japanese pronunciation, Chinese, Mandarin, for the most part, is very different. Enough that I know when it's Japanese and I know when it's Chinese, or, you know, maybe I might not make a difference between Vietnamese and Chinese, whatever. But I can make a difference from Japanese and some of the Asian languages like Chinese. And it's important to understand that and to be able to compare and, you know when it is, because it makes a difference sometimes when you log a station and knowing what it is. That's one of the important things that you need to know. Sometimes the culture, you know, for somebody once in the Facebook group was posting a video and said, "Oh, this is Chinese, blah blah blah," and oh no, Korean. I think it was like Korea. You know, listen, I totally understood immediately it was like the voice of Turkey, because the music played was pop, Turkish pop. That's also something, you know, it's experience. I mean, we don't know what it sounds like if you've been not listening to it, that's for sure. But the language, the way things are, it's, you know, with experience and with listening, you get that experience that you need to identify what you're listening to. And that helps you a lot, because there's so many frequencies that might have several stations. What am I listening to? What is that broadcast? Because there's like 4 stations at this time on this frequency. What am I listening to? So there's so many little things. And of course, it's easy for me to say, but, you know, I've been listening for like, you know, 38 years. So of course, it's the experience of hearing the languages over and over and over again, and understanding whatever language that is, you know. And the other thing is also understanding the propagation aspect. If it's daytime path from point A to point B, and you're talking about a 6 megahertz frequency, well, no, it's not happening because it's daytime. It is experience. It is, you know, knowledge of years of listening. And that makes our hobby very unique, because it's a complex thing. And it's not just very unique there, because every hobby has its very complex side of things. But as you know, you listen in and it's okay. I mean, I think what we need to do, because I see it on the Facebook group often, where we correct people. And I correct people. And by the way, if I ever correct you, it's never in an intention of being bad. I do like correctness. I like when things are, the knowledge and the whatever we talk about is okay. It's knowledgeable. It's verified. And when I correct somebody on a Facebook group, it's never negative. It's never because I want to make you feel bad. It's just because, well, no, that is not what you're listening to. I got one guy that came back to me and said, well, you know, I don't feel comfortable posting anymore because everybody's correcting me. No, continue posting. We're not doing it in a bad way. We're doing it in a way that, you know what, we're just helping everybody, first of all, because I like that everybody knows the reality of what signal this is, the exactness of the information. But also, you know, it helps you too, because slowly you'll get that knowledge of what you're listening to and what it is. You know, in the 80s, I probably misidentified so many stations thinking it was that, and it wasn't. I remember one of the moments where I was I didn't feel good. I'd listened to Radio RSA from South Africa so many times, and somebody comes over, and I'm tuning around, and I'm like, oh, this is Radio RSA from South Africa, and the station starts talking about Canadian, politics or whatever, and I'm like, the guy says, well, they're talking awfully about a lot of Canadian politics if it's South Africa. I was actually tuned to Radio Canada International. But, DX100, analog, you don't know where you should tune. You think you're tuning whatever, but it's not. So it's not that you should feel bad or anything. It's just that, man, there's such a lot of things to know, and we're just trying to help out. We're not trying to belittle or be bad when we try to correct, honestly. You can ham radio okay, well, let's go. Oh, wait, I'm just gonna go to the down. Pablo Martin. Hey, Shell, you have friends and extended family here. I totally understand. That's why I'm still here. Because I feel the need to be here. And I feel the need to have everybody here. Because I told you, when we're doing the live shows, it's like there's a room full of people. It's just a chat, but visually, and I visualize a room full of people having fun. And we're having fun with radio. Amarillo Stream just did a complete band scan of the shortwave on the PL880, not a single station. Wow, do you have a lot of noise where you are? This is crazy. We need to fix that. I need to go to Alberta. RJ Dakota 6180 11780. Some kind of electronic interference on 11780. Yeah, it could be a local interference also. Maxi 76, my father had to take care of me and all of my issues. Tracheostomy, feeding tube, it's get tough sometimes. I like to do all this stuff. Maxi 76, if we do it because it's worth it somehow. But it's part of our lives sometimes that's so tough. And I do so much at the same time that it gets you to here. Joseph Eckenbaum, what's the best introduction to logging, or are there any online tools that are decent? So what everybody is using for logging? I used to do it in Book. I don't do it anymore. Yeah, it's easy to explain, Joseph, but understanding and listening is a very different thing. Yeah, I would guess Korean and Vietnamese. Sheldon says, just checked 4940 on the NCR in Anna, Texas. Woman speaking in Spanish, Latin American music, probably to reactivate Colombian station. I've seen so many posts in the last couple of days of that Colombian station on the 4940. And I see a very small trace here, but so it's probably that. 4940, Colombia reactivated. How many of those South American stations? I mean, when you listen to an SDR in Brazil or any country in South America, There's so many weak signals on there. There are tons. You know, we were used to the 80s big gun stations, you know, Ecos del Torbes from Venezuela on 4980. We're used to, you know, all of the very strong South Americans and even Africans. What's happening today is that there are tons of, I'm sure there are hundreds of South American stations on the 60-meter band, but they are low-powered, bad antennas. They make it around where they are, not making it up here in North America. But when you listen to an SDR in South America, the 49-meter band has a lot of little signals on there that you're like, huh, this is interesting. So Sheldon says 4940, and pretty much everybody that has actually noted 4940, the Colombian reactivation, is in the south of the U.S. That's where the first reports came out from. And I was following some of those reports on I think it was World Radio Group, or Glenn Hauser's. Prasad, whenever you listen to radio, do you first decide what you are going to listen to, or just tune around the bands and hang on to a particular station? That's a good question, Prasad. A lot of people want to know what is my way of doing it when I do something, when I listen to shortwave or so on. And I'll say it depends on the feel of my listening night. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just go on eibispace.de, look at the list of the broadcast by time, and try the stations that I think could be possible at my location. So one part is that. One part is let's band scan. So one evening I don't want to listen to any broadcast. I just want to know what's out there and what I can hear. So I'll just start from the low, depending on the time of day, from low or high frequency, and go up or down and see what is available and check out what I can listen to. Sometimes I'll take a list like EIBI Space, but look at the details of what is, you know, one of the part of the EIBI Space frequency schedules that is important, but nobody takes the time to do it. So when you go to eibispace.de, it's a list, okay, by time, by frequency. When you go to by time, look at the 0 to 24 hours. That's a broadcast that's 24 hours a day. Look at what is in there. There's some interesting stuff in there. There's utility signals that show up that are 24 hours you never know about. It's interesting to look at all in there. Sometimes I will look at, you know, the Russian Morse code beacons that are on shortwave, the channel markers, stuff like that. Sometimes I just tune around and see what is there, and that's it. I like to tune around and just try to find some unusual stuff, utility signals and so on. It's a mix. It depends on what night it is. You know, one night I will just sit down and I want to listen to programs, and I will look at, you know, okay, so here's Radio Estadio España, here's West of Vietnam, here's you know, Radio Slovakia via WRMI, here is whatever, and I'll just follow the schedules and just listen to whatever is on. It depends on the night and depends what I do, honestly. I think it's important to diversify not always do the same thing. That's what is keeping us alive in the hobby. I would have lost interest in shortwave if I was not a curious guy that listens to different things. Probably. So, Ham Radio Extreme, is there a list of shortwave stations by frequency that I can download to make a database? So, if you go Ham Radio Extreme to eibispace.de, they have a list by frequency of everything logged that is apparently on the air that you could check. I think that is one of the nice, it misses a lot because it depends what you want to have. If you're talking about shortwave broadcasts, it's in there. Utilities, now there's a lot of other stuff in there. And there's a lot of different sites that have a lot of stuff also. Yeah, William Mims, absolutely. It's important not to mistake something for something else. That's for sure. That's for sure. But it's not always easy, and that's the important thing to understand. Also, it's not always easy to identify. Yeah, but you know what, RJ, the other code, sometimes, you know, when it's not your own language, it's difficult to know what you can't identify. It's not always easy, you know. Rob says, I too am glad everybody is there, good people. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I see, Hammer Extreme. You really got a lot of noise there. Crazy. David, in the room full of people, I am the one with this spiked haircut. Oh, God. Gordon Lyle says, SWL Logger. It's free program. Oh, my God. It's Makoto. I like listening to radio when I'm feeling sad or just got dumped. As long as you're listening to positive programming. RTD code. I just listen to several stations in South America. Man, I'm kicking my camera around, eh? I could see it. Notably from Colombia and Venezuela. Roberto Ramirez, thoughts on the Texan PL330? Looks interesting, but I can't talk about it really. Can't really talk about it. I'm ready to stream. Yep, the DE site, eibispace.de. It's one of the most accurate shortwave schedules around, for sure. They look nice, you know. Texan PL330, Texan PL3 990, H501. They all look nice, but we'll need to have a little more people testing them. Comanche 76 would be kind of cool if we could do some Zoom conference with all of us on the chat room. Not sure if that would be possible, as we would have to have one person speak at a time. Well, we need a moderator, and we need people to give the voice so that not everybody is talking all the time. Thundercat 1 just upgraded to general class ham license last Saturday. This YouTube channel feeds my radio addiction a lot. Congratulations, my friend. Congratulations. Chris Powell, take care, my friend. Don't worry, I'll hang in there. Apparently, there's Alex Jones on 4840. He's talking about clipping an antenna to his tinfoil hat. Take care, RJD Dakota. Always nice to have you on board. Always nice to have everybody here. Oh, man. Okay, so anything else on the shortwave bands? Let's check it out here. 2749. Let me check. Anybody hearing? Okay. Nova Scotia weather from Halifax, 2749 upper sideband. Who is hearing 2749 upper sideband? It's pretty good here, actually. A really strong signal. So this is the Canadian Maritime Station in Nova Scotia, Canada. 2749 VCS, I believe. You know what Kamexi said in 1976? If you have a year's worth of food in the backyard buried, I don't know what it'll look like after. 2749 upper sideband. 2749 upper sideband. Gotta listen to that Canadian Maritime Station because you know what? It is giving secret coded messages for us U.S. underground guys that's gonna overturn the power of the government. So, Gun Lyle got 2749 S9. Sounds good here. Matt says, I'm currently recording the MFSK64 portion of This Is a Music Show. No problem. So, they're watching a shortwave show. Yeah, that ancient art of shortwave. You know what, guys? I'm going to do a little switch. Paul is gone. And I'm going to switch to the other side of the room. So let's just do that. I'm here. Now that Paul is not in my chair anymore. And here we go. There we go. Hello, everybody. And we're starting all over again. Let's do an 8-hour show from now. No, I'm not going to do 8 hours, but here we go. Okay. Hey, Joshua, nice to have you here. W4GOG. Been a while. It's okay. You know, we have our lives also. Nice to have you on board. Kamaxi 76, much better. It seems more natural on that side of the room. Yeah, it's radio. It's more radio-like. And we're on the air. We are on the air on this side of the room. Joshua says, build me a new antenna and let me tell you, it's 100-foot long, but had a 20-meter dipole on it for upper HF. Keegan says, going for a new record? Not sure. So what's the record? 4 hours and 30 minutes? Or 5 hours and 30 minutes? Who remembers the record? It was long. It was like at least 4 hours and 30 minutes. I'm trying to remember. I remember. Yeah. Hey, Prasad. Always nice to have you on board, my friend. Please stay safe. And see you next Wednesday. Or Thursday in your case, absolutely. It's always a pleasure and an honor to have you on board. It's actually always an honor to have everybody here. So, hey guys, we're going to do something. I'm going to ask you guys a question. I have two choices. Ending the show, and I know you guys don't want that. I'm tired of my beer, but I am able to go and do myself a vodka drink. And we'll continue doing the show. How about it? And what we're going to do is we're going to tune some frequencies here and see what we can hear. So I'm going, and the show ends now, or I do a vodka drink and we tune the frequencies and listen to some shortwave. What do you guys want? I already know the answer, but you know. I will not throw out the beer, don't worry. Vodka, vodka. I like Joshua saying vodka, vodka. It's a little more. It's like 4 hours and 30, I think. Something like 4 hours and 30. I think that was the record. Yeah. Joshua says, I like the video you did on the WebSDR. Yeah, because of the map. With the map, it's super cool also. That's the thing. Jeff Barrett, 4885. Two possibilities, Radio Club Dopado or Radio Difusora. It's a 4885, I think, is Radio Club Dopado from Brazil in general. I think the stronger station is Radio Club Dopado from Brazil. Jason Francis says, I say continue. Joshua Gosnell says, vodka, vodka. I will not throw out the beer. I'll drink the beer and I'll fill my glass. Shelly wants coffee. I would send you coffee right now if you know. Rob says vodka drink. Gordon says, I'd like to watch some of the shows from back 2015, 16. It's pretty cool talking about what was going on, back then. Well, it's, you know what? It's like we don't like to. I'd like to see myself 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You look at it and you're like, wow, that's what I did 4 years ago, and you're like, oh man, and people watched. I know, So, tune the waves, Moria 330 says. Matt says, I'm maybe getting some audio on 2749. Definitely sounds like a voice under noise. Does it sound female? It's like a female digital voice. Oh, that would be nice. The Guinness Book World of Records, the longest show, the longest live show or podcast or whatever on the internet. Matt says, cool, definitely something there is new station for me. So that is Nova Scotia, Canada maritime weather coming in. So I will go and get my my vodka drink. Please, we have sponsors. I will click that button. And for those that have an ad, it's live. And for those that don't, well, Paul McCann isn't here, so I'm sorry. I'm going to put the voice of the sexy female Canadian weather from Nova Scotia, Canada. So, and I'm going to come back in a couple of minutes, and we're going to continue the show, guys. Okay? I'm having fun, and it's helping me tonight with all of you, and I just want to say I am how should I say it? I am privileged that so many people are watching my show and enjoying what I do, because you know what, it's easy to feel like, you know, whatever you're doing is, you know, not important, and you guys show me that what I do is important, and I want to thank everybody. So I'm back. Here's oh, it's gone. Oh, it's in French now. So you guys will now hear some French. Artifacts de Radio Garde Côtière in French. So it's the French side of the sexiness. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes, guys. And thank you so much for being great fans of my live shows. Well, bonjour. Hello, everybody. I'm back. I'm back. So, 13,840. Let me try it, just out of curiosity. Nope, barely. That's the sad part of going into, there's cool things, but there's the sad part of going into, this fall and winter here is 13,840. Radio New Zealand is now fading away. 5.9. Let me try something here. 5925. Who's hearing 5925? Not bad a signal here. 5925 is Voice of America. And it is Voice of America from Botswana. It gets even better here at 0400, but 5925, Voice of America, broadcasting out of Botswana in Africa. Not too bad of a signal here. It's actually one of the best signals of Voice of America recently for me. So often at night I listen to Voice of America that's getting really bad press. Trump is really against Voice of America right now, and even treats Voice of America almost like fake news, where Voice of America is, it's U.S. viewpoints on world events, but I don't hate Voice of America personally. I think they have decent viewpoints on a lot of things. 7375 is Radio Romania. Roberto Ramirez. Nice to have you here. Where are you located? Jeff Barrett, copying 5925, S9 plus 28. Shady Power 90. There's a recording of Radio Bucharest from 1989. Yeah. Communist regime fell apart. It's okay, Joko. No problem. Don't worry. Yeah, Radio Romania 7375. Matt says, VOA News had independent editors. It's pretty solid and fair. Yeah, I kind of like Voice of America, honestly. It's one of those news, it's like the BBC. You know, it's interesting because when you ask a somebody from the country of origin or what people think, different news sources have different you know, ways of being fair or not fair or who they are. Honestly, if I have and want to have some news that I think is, let's say that what I personally think is the fairest and the most independent that it could be, I would, you know, say, well, if I listen to the BBC NewsHour, for example, if I listen to Voice of America, I think, in all fairness, it is one of, they are both pretty accurate and independent on their news reporting. And you know, when you get to that point of fairness on, because I mean, we gotta be at a point where we understand that there's fairness of news. The day that radio, TV is something that we think is biased, it's sad because that means we don't believe anybody anymore. And we need to believe in someone, and we need to believe in some news source. I think news, particularly news, needs to be totally unbiased. I do not like news sources that are pro one side or pro that side, or no. Real news needs to be at a base where it doesn't give you more fairness than anybody else. Just reports the truth and what it is. My personal viewpoint, and it's mine, and you might not share it, guys, is the BBC and the Voice of America are still some of the fairest news voice out there. That said, Voice of America is pro-American, and I see it in some news items. I see it in some viewpoints, but not enough for me to change to tell me that it's not a worth it viewpoint of what's happening. Like the BBC. You know, it's crazy, but hey, I'm ready to stream. Thank you. Have some nice medium wave DX. You know what, Matt? I am not religious, and I do not like religious broadcasters. But Vatican Radio's news service is impressive, and I totally agree with you on that. It is very high quality. And if you take out about, you know, the Pope stuff, because that's what I filter out, its news service, I think, is one of the good ones, honestly. And I like their reporting of African, because you know what? Let's be fair. Europe, North America, it's like if Europe and North America is the only thing that exists in the world. And I like to know what's happening. I want to know what's happening in Africa. What is happening in Africa? Nobody reports on Africa. We never see anything about Africa in the news except when there's like thousands of people dying in an explosion or something. I am tired of that type of reporting. That because we're in North America or in Europe, where there's more money and more, it's like if Europe and North America are the only thing that exists in this world. And I'm very tired of that type of reporting. I want to know what's happening in Africa. Nobody tells us anything. I like Shortwave for that reason. BBC, when they have the African news reports. Vatican Radio with their African viewpoints. Voice of America. VOA Africa. I effing know what's happening in Africa. I like that because you know what? Africa is a continent. It exists. It has a lot of people and nobody ever talks about it. And I am tired of that. You know what? What? No, North America is not the center of the world. Europe is not the center of the world. There is a world out there. We're all in it. Everybody is as important, whether it's a poorer country or a rich country. I mean, yes, we're privileged. We got to understand that. Somebody, we never chose where we were born. Never. Some are born in some really crazy ass places around the world and have a life, a crappy life. And they never chose to have that life. I was born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, one of the greatest places around the world. Honestly, we can rant about politics, our viewpoints, or Quebec, Canada, whatever. I have the privilege, because it is a privilege, of being born in one of the greatest places in the world, where I can be who I am, what I am, do this live show that you guys enjoy. And it's not everybody's privilege. There's a lot of people born in crappy places, never had a choice in life, never were able to decide for anything, never could they take a chance or decide on something. So stop being somebody that thinks everybody has a choice or everybody has a chance. It's not true. So that said, thanks to BBC Africa, Voice of America, VOA Africa, the African service of Vatican Radio. At least I know what's happening in that place where nobody cares. And I'm tired of that. We should have news sources here that give, you know what? We should give a percentage of every news bulletin everywhere about every continent. So today in China, this is what's happening. Today in Vietnam, this is what's happening. Today in Africa, I don't know, Botswana, whatever, whatever country, in Cameroon or whatever. I want to know what's happening in my world. Maybe it's the shortwave heritage that I am, it is. But please let me know what's happening in Africa. There are people there, and there are people that are as important as we are. But a lot of them don't have that choice that we have. Okay? And cheers. Take care, Shelley. It's nice to have you on board. Joseph Ingenbaum, Al Jazeera is good African news too. You know what? I never looked or listened or watched Al Jazeera much. Maybe I should. Maybe I should take more time and do it. Joshua, I always say shortwave is world viewpoint. You listen and try your own mind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Radioactive as S6 on Radio New Zealand in Oregon. I got a few QSL cards from Radio Vatican radio with the Pope's face on it. Take care, Shady Pyro 90. Yeah, there's not much coming out of Eastern Europe either. Absolutely. You know, look what's happening in Belarus. There's a lot of stuff happening in Belarus right now. I mean, it's crazy. You know, we want to learn more of what's happening in these countries. Keegan, a YouTuber, has edited the Voice of America newscasts, news, turns them into wavy news, changing context or manipulating. But that's, you know what? Like something else for comedic effect. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of that happening, and we got to be careful with social media, you know. Joshua says, that's why I love shortwave, the world, not local. Absolutely. Gordon has 6070 CFRX. Wow. Let me try it out. 6070. Anything here? Nope. It's dead. It's dead. Nothing here. This time, usually I don't have it. VOA News. VOA News. Radioactive says, I would like news service to give a little about everywhere for sure. Yep. Sergeant Rock, 13840, New Zealand, strong into Hawaii on the Texan R9012. Wow. Lucky bum here in Canada, even on a you know, a good receiver and antenna. It's barely there now. But I think I had the best run of Radio New Zealand for a long time this summer. 13840 was a solid performer. Many evenings before going to bed. I really enjoyed my summer. It's summer listening. Like I always say, it's my summer radio listening for the evening. Carmen Green, where are you located? Nice to have you here. Joseph Ickenbaum, 13840, moving into California. Jeff Barrett, unfortunately, some of those countries have an iron fist on the radio coming out. Oh, that's for sure. When something goes wrong, the first thing happens is media goes dark. Yep, that's why shortwave is important. Belarus, Radio Free Europe, I think, had a few broadcasts that they've started to send to them because when things go dark, shortwave has no borders. You can, you know, just put a shortwave transmitter somewhere and send out the news. KC9KUH, good evening. Nice to have you here. Now, Radioactive would like to see a broadcast MFSK like a shortwave radiogram with world news. 24-hour world news in digital format. That could be kind of nice to see. Marcos Antonio, I just tuned a Russian station that is kind of ghostly out through shortwave. Only beeps and then says a couple of words. Sikara says 13840 S7. Okay, let's go up slowly. Let's go to anybody hearing 5450 upper sideband, 5450 upper sideband is the Royal Air Force of the UK Volmet, or not Vomit, but Volmet. It's a station that gives out the weather for the Royal Air Force of the UK. Joshua, no, I never watched Empire of Noise. I've seen that so many times. You know what? After the show ends, I think I'm going to check it out to see if I can find it. Jamming shortwave. It's about jamming Soviet Union shortwave. You know, I still remember, we talk about jamming, because, I mean, jamming does exist on shortwave, but I remember listening to Radio Moscow reading letters from stations, from users or viewers or listeners, sorry, of different parts of the world that technically should not have been able to go through, and still listening to that. And it shows you how shortwave just goes through boundaries, go through borders. Matt, don't get Royal Air Force vomit very often, but I'm copying Shannon. Let me try Shannon. Usually Shannon, I gotta say, is usually stronger. Yeah, I'm hearing Shannon also. I got a QSL card. It's actually a QSL pamphlet. Anybody who wants to have a QSL card, 5505 Shannon is sending out QSL cards if you want to have one. Hey, Lucy and Jusara Aka. Nice to have you on board. Jusara Aka Guara. Nice to have you here. The mom and the sister of Marcos Antonio in Nicaragua. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Nice to have everybody here. Yep, Matt. I don't have it near, even though I probably have it not very far. But Shannon gives it's a pamphlet with all the information of the station, and at the end you'll have all the information of your reception report. They do QSL. You got a QSL, Matt. Good night, Joshua Gosnell. Nice to have you here. My pleasure, Marcos. What else is of interest on the bands right now? Wow. Radio Havana, Cuba, with one of the best audio I've heard in a long time. 6,000 kilohertz, 6000. Radio Havana, Cuba. Really good signal up here. And good audio. Oh, Matt says 5371.5. Let me try that out. Oh, I'm hearing them. I'm hearing it here. Five 5371.5 upper sideband, Matt. I'm hearing it too. Oh, 5371.5 is actually, let me check it out here, part of the amateur 60-meter band. In Europe, 5371.5 is actually part of the 60-meter band. In Canada also. So it could be amateur radio operators from Canada, actually. I'm trying to listen to some, yeah, it's the 60-meter band M channel, Matt. So these are probably amateur radio operators. That's what I'm just trying to find here. Not very strong, but I'm hearing stations on 5371.5. You know, it's that's the difficult thing, because on 60 meters there are some frequencies where you'll hear some stuff, and because we're not really sure where all the 60-meter frequencies are exactly, sometimes we hear stuff and we think it's a ham operator, but we're not in there. Sometimes we think it's something else, but actually it's a ham operator, because we're not really sure of the frequencies. But that sounds like an amateur frequency. But you know, they're shared frequencies. So shared frequencies means that it could be one or the other also. Yeah, 5357, yeah, with the FT8. Everybody's on FT8 there. I also, it's one of those that I also just like. I think all the FT8 channels we all know by heart. You know, it's like the other day someone said, "Hey, anybody hearing stuff on 17 meters? Hey, go to 18100 if you hear FT8. There's activity." You know. But remember that all the AM stations, all the AM frequencies on 60 meters, like 5371.5, are shared. That means probably it's a ham, but it could be something else because it's a secondary frequency purpose. That means if Mars or a Civil Air Patrol uses it, ham radar operators have to get off. But most of those frequencies are always hams. That's for sure. I like to listen to hams, not FT8, but when there's hams on the 60-meter band talking, I like that. Okay, let me just check 4940. Anybody here in Colombia, 4940? Nope. There's something on 4930. I think it's Voice of America out of Botswana. Let me check it out here. Yeah, exactly. I think it's I'm not sure 100%, but I think it's rules are everywhere that 60 meter is secondary, and if there's something else, you have to cease transmitting if you hear activity. I think it's from pretty much, you know, how do you do that? I mean, honestly, look at the ham bands where there's idiots, you know, complaining of, you know, nets and so on. Imagine these idiots in 60 meters when some ham, you know, some Mars net or whatever, you know. I think they're given because there's not a lot of activity there, but kind of interesting. And there's a lot of stuff. Just look at what we're tuning now. There's a lot of stuff still to listen to. I hate it when somebody says, well, there's nothing on shortwave. No, there's something. I think a lot of it has to do with noise. A lot of it has to do also with the fact that a lot of people, you know, from the, of course, if you were listening in 1975 and you tune around today for the first time in your life, you're going to say, wow, there's nothing left. Nothing left. Everybody's gone. I don't know how many times when I post, oh, there's a BBC on that frequency. Oh, they're back. They're not back. They never left. They left to North America, but they're not gone. They're not left. Radioactive has conversations on 5322. Let's check it out. $53.22 upper sideband. Yeah, Radio Rebelde 5025 is usually very good. No, 5322 is not a ham channel. Check it out here, 6604. Let's go up. Let's go up. Anything of interest? Let's look at the 40-meter band. There's a lot of Morse code activity on the 80 meters. Take care, Keegan. Friday, 20 hours UTC, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Matt, Voice of Turkey week on 72.75. It's it's not very strong here either. I can hear it, but it's not very good here. Yeah, you know what? Last year, I think they were on 95.15, eh? Last year, I think they were on 95.15. It's not very good here. 59.60, 59.60. 98.30 is the best frequency in the summer here at 2200, sorry. When they are there, because often they are not. Take care, Chrissy Freitas. Nice to have you here. Go play some video games. And thank you so much for being a great fan. Love you, Chrissy. Take care, okay? It's always cool to have everybody on board. Yeah, that's what I thought. And they do go with 95.15 usually. That's the I think it was WWCR when they had one of those shows where they asked WWCR. They were talking about frequency choosing. And they were talking about how difficult, especially in times of lower solar activity like we have now, how difficult it was to actually choose a right frequency that propagates. And that's where, we can be badass shortwave listeners saying, well, you should have chose that frequency. Imagine the guy that has to choose, the frequency for the next schedule season. And often they have to choose it long in advance. They can't choose it 10 minutes before to say, okay, we'll be on 72.75 or 95.50. Somebody has to say, well, okay, this is slow activity. Last year, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Last year we had 8 reports on 95.15, so maybe it wasn't that great. So it's slow solar activity. Imagine the decision you have to take. Imagine the decision you have to take of, let's go on that frequency. It's almost like, playing at a casino. So who puts $100 on 72.75? Who puts $100 on 95.15? Who's the winner? Who's the winner? It's almost like that. It's a difficult thing. It's always been difficult on shortwave to do that gamble. Let's choose a frequency and see if it wins. Matt says maybe they should go back to 4 cycles a year instead of 2. You know what? It's crazy because it's a lot of changes, but honestly, the 4 schedule changes gave the best signals there all the time. There's always that time when it doesn't work. Look at as we're getting into the fall, a lot of the signals that are in upper frequencies for the summer, that will change only at the end of October. Ain't working. They ain't working. You know what? 13650. Two frequencies for North America for Radio Romania at 2030. 13650, 11850. 13650 is almost gone here on the East Coast. But 11850, which is never there in the summer, is now the dominant frequency. It shows you that it's a tough thing. It's really a tough thing. Take care, Gordon. Always nice to have you here. And stay safe. Yeah, but you know what? Radio New Zealand doesn't broadcast to us. They do it for the Pacific Islands. And that's a much easier thing because over the ocean, the Pacific, it's different. No, it's not broadcast to the Western North America. It's Europe and East Coast of North America, usually 13650 and 11850. But for most of the summer, 13650 was much better here, even in the East Coast, than 11850. Okay, guys, I will say goodbye and take it easy with the rest of my vodka drink. And I wanted to say thank you. I'm going to be back on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UT. Hope you enjoyed the show, okay? And stay safe. I'm not asking, but you want me to buy a Texan, because all of it will go to that. Want me to buy a Texan PL990, 330 or whatever? PayPal. Whatever you send to the PayPal, it's dedicated to that radio, and I'll review it, and I'll be happy to do so. So let me just put a Texan 990 H501 or 330 fund. Here we go. And yeah, I know, Kemexy. Don't worry about it. It's a tough time right now, but I'm there. Okay, I'm strong and I'm there. So there's a Texan 990 H501 and 330 fund. If you want me to buy one of those radios and actually review it, that's where you have to send your PayPal. It's going totally towards that, nothing else. For the rest, I love you all. Stay safe. It was really, really a lot of fun. We'll be back on Friday, and 4 hours. 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm drunk. I'm kind of drunk right now. And 20 hours UTC. Okay. Love you all. My hand still hurts from hitting those guys the other day. Stay safe. And see you Friday, or see you next Wednesday. We are here twice a week. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 hours UTC. And Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 20 hours UTC. Bye, guys. Stay safe, okay?